The two best teams in the Big 12 are facing off this weekend. Of course, we're talking about TCU and Kansas State. Both programs are coming off big wins. Of course, TCU coming off a close win against Oklahoma State, and Kansas State 2 weeks ago won a good game against Iowa State. They're coming off a bye week this week. Drew, kicking it to you, though, of course, we know this TCU offense. They're very high-powered. They score a lot of points. When you look at this TCU offense, what are the main things that pop out to you?
Well, they're both really, really good passing the ball and running the ball. Max Duggan's had a terrific season so far. 1,600 passing yards, 16 touchdowns, 1 interception. I mean, you can't ask for much more from a quarterback like that. And then Kendra Miller running the ball has also been a really, really great running back. Kendra Miller has 578 rushing yards and is averaging 6.5 yards per carry and 8 touchdowns. Just a really, really good running back. And then Quentin Johnson, probably their best receiver. Well, not probably. He is their best receiver by far. And Tay Barber, the other receiver, pretty much their number 2 receiver, has been really good as well. I would like to see him step up a little bit more in this game. I think teams are about to really start keying on Quentin Johnson, but I think Tay Barber is very talented, and I think he's able to step up to the plate and be that number 2 receiver. TCU has the third total offense in all of college football. They've just been dominant in every single game they played in, but they're going to be playing a really tough Kansas State defense. Kansas State is a very quiet team, and they've had some good wins and have played a lot of good defense this year. But before we get to Kansas State, Aiden, we want to talk about TCU's defense, a defense that has struggled a little bit, that has given up a bunch of yards. What do you think TCU's defense is going to have to do in this game if they want to shut down this Kansas State offense?
Yeah, TCU lost their defensive coordinator, and they're going from running a 4-2-5 to a 3-3-5 stack, which, of course, that's going to take an adjustment period. And every single game this season, they've gotten better and better. But like you mentioned, they haven't been great. They haven't given up a lot of points. But as far as this game goes, Kansas State, they run the ball a lot. Their quarterback, he's a run-heavy guy. They're going to have to be able to stop that run game. If they can stop the run game and force the Kansas State quarterback to throw the ball, that could cause some fits for Kansas State because we know that this TCU offense is going to put up points.
Yeah, TCU is going to put up points regardless. They're just one of those great offenses that there's really no way you're going to shut them down. They're just so good through the air and on the ground. The best you can do is slow them down. And I think Kansas State does match up well when it comes to being able to slow these offenses down. And they're going to have to in this game, especially being on the road. TCU's in the top 10 now. TCU can get a pretty good home crowd going. It's a night game. And these TCU fans are going to be juiced up. They have high hopes for this team this year. And TCU, with a win here, can really put themselves ahead of the 8 ball in terms of making it to the Big 12 title game. Now, Kansas State's given up 132 rushing yards per game and only 220 passing yards per game. They rely pretty heavily on their defense. Now, Kansas State's offense isn't terrible. Adrian Martinez, obviously the transfer from Nebraska. And Adrian Martinez, he's not an elite passer, but he does get the job done with his legs. He's a very mobile quarterback. And I think he stepped up big time for this Kansas State offense. I think at Nebraska he struggled at times. A lot of Nebraska fans weren't very high on him. Towards the end of his career there, but I think he's really given this Kansas State offense a jump. And then we can't forget about Deuce Vaughn, the running back for Kansas State. Definitely a top running back in all of college football. He's very fun to watch, and he's going to have to step up in this game against TCU.
Yeah, we saw Adrian Martinez at the beginning of the season at Kansas State. He wasn't playing as well. He was being, really conservative, almost like he was, kind of scared to make a mistake. But as these last couple of weeks have gone by, he's been playing better and better, been taking more shots down the field, looking way more comfortable. And, like you mentioned, their running back, he's only 5'5", but he's almost impossible to take down. And he's a playmaker. So, yeah, definitely be looking for him to make plays. But talking about this defense, of course, the whole team is centered around this defense. They're the number 2 defense in the Big 12. They're really good at stopping the run, and they lock down on the pass game as well. Against Iowa State, they lost their two of their best pass rushers early. So having that bye week is going to help them come back. They're really going to need those pass rushers because you don't want TCU's quarterback to have a comfortable pocket and be able to go through his reads because you're not going to stop TCU's top 2 receivers. They're going to get off, especially Quentin Johnson. He's going to have an amazing game no matter what you do. So you have to make it as hard for that quarterback to get it to those receivers as possible, and that all starts with the pass rush.
Yeah, exactly. That is the best way to stop pass-heavy offenses, especially passing teams like TCU that are just really dominant. And Quentin Johnson, those receivers are going to find ways to get open. It's a tough task to ask your defensive backs to cover those receivers for really more than 3 seconds. So you're going to have to find ways to get pressure on Max Duggan. That is really the only way you're going to slow him down. You're not going to shut him down, but you're going to slow him down. And obviously, I think Kansas State's really going to have to establish a good running game. And another one of those scenarios where Kansas State's going to have to control the time of possession. TCU can't score if they don't have the ball. So, that's definitely an emphasis Kansas State is probably thinking about and should be thinking about. Now, the line for this game is only 3.5 points, and this is a little odd for me. I know Kansas State's a very competitive football team, But 3.5 points just seems to be a little small, especially after watching this TCU offense. And I just don't know if Kansas State's going to be able to slow them down for the entirety of the game, nor do I trust Kansas State's offense to kind of keep up with TCU. And the last thing Kansas State wants to do in this game is get in a shootout type of match. I think TCU, that's exactly what TCU would want. I think TCU just has the upper hand if this game was to get out into kind of a shootout match. And TCU's at home. It's a night game. I know they had an emotional win last week against Oklahoma State, but I think being at home in this environment, I think it's kind of going to help them, kind of get over that hangover win that they had. So with that being said, I think this game will be close. I don't think TCU is just going to completely run the table for the entirety of the game and win by 3 touchdowns. I do expect Kansas State to be very competitive in this game and competitive through 4 quarters, really. But I think TCU's offense is just going to be a little too much, and they're going to pull away just enough in the 4th quarter to give them about a touchdown win. So give me TCU for the win, and they're going to cover the 3.5.
Yeah, if I'm looking at this game, bookmakers, they give the home team 3 to 3.5 points just based off them playing on their home field. And you mentioned this is a night game. And the Big 12 has been having record attendance for, these schools like TCU, Iowa State. Like, they've been deep. And Kansas State has played this season in big away games. So I trust them playing on the road. And, there's good defense travels, whether you're playing at home or on the road. If your defense is playing well, you can take the win out of the home team sails. And I just mentioned the line. And if I'm seeing this at 3.5, it's just alarming. It makes me think that the bookmakers know something we don't, because if you're just looking at these teams, on paper, you're right. TCU should win this game, but college football is all about matchups. And I think that Kansas State matches up really, really well. We saw against Oklahoma State last week when TCU played them. Oklahoma State jumped out on them, and, they were putting up a lot of points. That TCU defense could not get a stop. So I think that this Kansas State offense is going to be able to run the ball, and they're going to be able to keep TCU's offense off the field. I don't think TCU's defense is going to be able to stop them. I think it's going to be a really, really close game because of TCU's high-powered offense. But, just going off the line, and then also, like you mentioned, TCU had a very emotional game against Oklahoma State. So, I'm not saying that will take some of the wind out of their sails, but, that is a very emotional game. So with all that being said, I'm going to take Kansas State in a close game.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons the line is as small as it is. Obviously, Kansas State with a bye week, their bye week couldn't have come at a better time, I don't think, especially with a close win at Iowa State, and then comparing it to a TCU who's at a tough stretch of games. Oklahoma, Kansas, Oklahoma State. That's a tough 3-game stretch, and TCU's obviously found ways to win all 3 of those, but you have to think they're a little tired by this point and exhausted. They haven't had a bye week since, I think it was September 10th. No, it was the week after that they had a bye week. So, TCU is going to be banged up. They're going to be tired. I just think they're going to have just enough in the tank to get through, and they're going to need to find a way to get this win, because this is a huge game in terms of making it to the Big 12 title game for both teams. Both teams currently undefeated in their conference. But with that being said, those are our predictions for the video, guys. If you haven't already, please leave a thumbs up on the video, subscribe, or hit the notification bell. All those things help this channel out tremendously, and we'll see you guys in the next one.